Stories, any funny anecdotes you'd like to share? Not one? Okay.
Not one. Nothing's funny in a comic book store.
That's great.
I was working a sales job for a newspaper, and also we owned a bar/theater that was a nonprofit in Wilmington, North Carolina, called the Brown Coat. And one afternoon, I got a call from a buddy of mine who I went to college with, but I hadn't seen him since we graduated. He'd gone off and was working in the film industry and doing a lot of other things. And he said, "Hey, you want to get lunch?" And I said, "Yeah." He's in town that afternoon. And so I met up with him at Red Robin, and we got to talking, him and another of his friends/business partners. And he said, we've been operating a comic book store for a while, and we're looking to open up another location in Wilmington. Would you be interested in partnering with us? And I was like, I don't know, never really thought about owning a comic book shop, really. So I called Amber, my wife, and I said, "Hey, you want to own a comic book shop?" And she didn't immediately hang up on me, so that was a good thing.
I'm used to it. But yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. He said, "Well, what would you think about owning a comic shop?" And I thought, do bookshops make money?
So she said, "Well, let's get some more details," things like that. So we got together, we talked about it, and within the span of an afternoon, we owned a comic book store, or at least part of one. And then a few months later, my friend got another gig in the film industry and had to move out to LA full time. And he said, "I can't really do the comic book store with you. So let's work out an arrangement." And so we did, and he signed over his part of the shop, and we owned a comic book shop all to ourselves. The challenges, there's a lot of challenges for working in a comic book store. Everybody thinks they want to own one, but very few people actually understand how difficult a business this is.
Unique challenges to a comic book store, to a bookstore. I think storage is probably one of the biggest ones. We have so many comics, and there's never enough space.
How awesome is this?
Being a woman in a comic book shop, it's still seen as a boys' club, which to me, as an English major, is very difficult to understand because I look at it as a book. It's a book. It's neutral. It's neuter gender, but it is still seen that way. I, however, grew up with comics. I grew up in Atlanta, and I grew up around comic books. Indie comic books mostly, but I was always a huge Batman fan, as you can tell. And it's grown into other superheroes like Moon Knight. But I also love my indie titles still. Image and Aftershock are probably some of my favorites. And sometimes you get odd questions, such as, do you actually read the books? And I think to myself, well, what an odd question.
Most of what you do in a comic book shop is just your normal, boring, day-to-day retail stuff, except it's fun because there's comic books everywhere. It's not like you're stocking lingerie. Of course, I don't know, stocking lingerie might be fun, I don't know. But, it's not like you're doing something boring like, Office Max, let's put it that way. At the very minimum, you're going to be able to look at cool stuff and, talk about fun, nerdy things with the people who come in. So, everybody's a unique character who comes through your door, and that's fun. But I think the most fun aspect of working in a comic book store all these years is just interacting with people who come in. We've had some great staff over the years who have worked with us, and we've had some people who there weren't officially employees. They just kind of showed up at the shop and didn't leave. It's like that John Cusack movie, High Fidelity. He's like, I never hired these guys. They just showed up and never went home and just continued to show up. And that really happens a lot in a comic book store. You'll get people who they just want, I don't know, there's an appeal to this. There's a draw to working in a comic book store. Every boy at one point in his life dreams of working in a comic book store. And so people will sometimes just show up and you'll be doing the bagging and boarding, which is the absolute worst part of owning a comic book store. Putting everything in the bags and boards every single week, because they don't come that way. And somebody will be like, hey, can I give you a hand? And you're looking at like a mountain of bags and boards you got to do. You're like, yeah, sure, why not? And they'll sit there, and then that's their in. They're now working for you, and they'll just show up, and eventually, they'll start helping customers because they want to share their love of comics and their love of knowledge with other people as well. And it's just really funny how that happens, and being able to interact with so many different people in a store, who are coming from different walks of life and different backgrounds and things like that, but who just really, really love comics. There's never a dull moment, to be honest.
I was hearing that you were working in a comic book shop, managing one entirely about half the size of this one.
About half the size, yeah. This was back in the early 90s, 90 to 94 or 5.
When you're a new comic book store, you're usually entering in a marketplace, and we've done this twice now. In Wilmington, there were already 2 comic book stores that were firmly established in the market, and then when we moved to Knoxville, there were 5 comic book stores established in the market. And so breaking into those markets, convincing people that you're going to offer a better service or a better experience than the other guy, that's really difficult, because you have people who have been going to your competitors for 5, 10, sometimes 20 years. And you've got to convince them to come and see you and do business with you instead. So we picked up, Amber and I, we picked up our entire lives in Wilmington. We were firmly entrenched in the Wilmington community as people, as business owners, very active members of the local arts community. When we went out, no matter where we went, people knew us. I don't want to say we were local celebrities or anything. Don't get me wrong, that we weren't. But because we were so intertwined with everything that's going on, especially through our theater, Wilmington was like one big family to us, and we had some really strong friendships and really strong relationships there with people, and we were kind of terrified when we picked up and moved to Knoxville. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know anybody. I mean, we literally knew no one in Knoxville. The closest family we had is 2 hours away. I didn't know anybody who lived here. Amber didn't know anybody who lived here. We had no idea what the climate was going to be as far as the business climate. And we're looking at moving into a market that's already serviced by 5 firmly entrenched comic book stores. We didn't want to come in and be in an adversarial relationship with the other shops in town. We wanted to blend in with the community and support them as our neighbors, because we believe that if Snake Eyes and Comics Exchange and New Krypton are strong economically, then that means the comic book community in Knoxville is strong, and that makes us strong as well. There's just something awesome about the Tennessee hospitality. People really welcomed us into this community and made us feel part of it, and we are so happy to be able to do that ourselves. Since we moved to Knoxville, one of the things that we really wanted to do was work on ways of bringing comics readers and comics collectors together with comics creators. Because, as a collector and as a reader, we spend a lot of time with these creators. We read their books all the time. We follow them from series to series. And but there's this disconnect between us, because you don't see them on television, you don't see them in the movies, you don't get a lot of chances to meet them. So we wanted to start bringing in comics creators here to Nirvana Comics, and we were able to do that twice in 2017. We plan to do it at least 4 times, maybe more in 2018. We're very excited. We were able to have Joe Pruitt from Aftershock Comics. He is the creator of Black Eyed Kids. He's also the publisher of Aftershock Comics. Then we also got Doug Wagner, an amazing Image Comics creator, to come in and work with us. So it was really cool for our community to be able to meet all of those folks, and we definitely want to continue doing that more often. So one of the coolest things that we got to do for 2017 was to partner with Aftershock Comics to create a store-exclusive variant cover for Backways #1 by Justin Jordan. And we've always wanted to do a store-exclusive cover. They're really expensive and really difficult to do, so we wanted to make sure that if we did one, we did it the right way and for the right reason. We didn't want it to just be another one of a million variant covers for comics out there that don't really mean anything. So we started talking to the guys at Aftershock. Joe Pruitt, the publisher, was very helpful. So was Stefan Nilsson, director of community relations over there. And we came up with Backways by Justin Jordan because it was an all-ages book. It's suitable. It's not aimed toward children, but kids can enjoy it in the same way that they enjoy Harry Potter. It's the book's very Harry Potter, kind of meets Labyrinth in a way, and so that appealed to us. And we started working on a cover design, and we wanted it to be very Knoxville exclusive and to feature our store, to be special for our community. So as you can see, the artist was kind enough to put our logo here on the corner. That's our sign. You can see the Knoxville silhouette of the cityscape there, which is beautiful. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without our little dog Mina, who is also on the cover. Just a few little hints and nods to what makes Nirvana special, which is our ties to the community. And another thing that was very special about this book was we decided to use it as a way of benefiting the children at the East Tennessee Children's Hospital. So during the holiday season, for every copy of Backways #1 that we sold, we donated a comic book to the East Tennessee Children's Hospital. And then Aftershock Comics also matched that with some comics of their own. So when this was all said and done on Christmas Eve, we got to deliver a huge box full of comics for all ages to the East Tennessee Children's Hospital, and the kids were so excited, so happy. It really made it all worth it. That's one of the things we strongly believe in here at Nirvana. We don't want to be just a capitalistic business. We want to be strong, productive members of our community. And so we try our best to work with local nonprofit organizations in any way that we can. And the East Tennessee Children's Hospital was just a perfect organization to partner with. Amber and I both feel the same way about kids and animals. We're suckers for those. So we were so glad that Aftershock was so willing to help us. And we were able to get an amazingly talented artist in Georges Genti to do the cover for us. We never imagined that an artist of his caliber would be willing to do a cover for a teeny tiny little shop in Knoxville, Tennessee like ours. But Georges was more than happy to do it, especially when he found out it was for the East Tennessee Children's Hospital. I think he put some of his best work on display with this book. So Georges, if you're watching, thank you very much. Joe from Aftershock, thank you. And for everybody who bought a copy of this and helped us to help the kids at the Children's Hospital, seriously, thank you.
By really fast.
It really has.
It is a whirlwind.
Yeah, and 2017 was a year that we weren't really anticipating moving, but we are so glad we chose Knoxville. It's been such a wonderful, welcoming place. The people here are awesome. could not have been welcomed more by a better group of people than our friends and community here in Knoxville, and we are so happy to be a part of it.